Everybody, this is Kelly of Roho Chief Clothing, and this is my Instagram, as you see here. And when you look here, I'm going to click on the link. It will say creator Kelly _ McAlpine. That's to my personal Instagram account. But right here it says follow link to my YouTube, Facebook, and clothing below. So I'm going to click on this link right here. Kids sports tee, as you see. Baby's clothing. This is a shirt for a toddler. I even have bodysuits for babies. And then going back, I have the category for also women. I have tank tops. I also have polo shirts. I also have long sleeve shirts, as well as hoodies for women as well. And also for men, they have the same thing. Men tank tops, men t-shirts, got V-neck shirts, comes in a variety of colors, sizes. So, check me out if you would like to have some fashion that honors your ancestors and shows the world that you know exactly who you are and proud of it. Now, let's get into the video. As you see right here, I have on the screen Tasha Shee's video, which is called Soul Food is Not Slave Food, Indigenous Aboriginal Origin of Soul Food. Now, I looked at her video and I thought it was a really good video. And if you haven't watched it, please check it out because it had inspired my video that I'm going to show you in a minute. Now, this is my video that was inspired by Tasha's. It's called Soul Food is Southeastern American Indian Dishes and Racist Food Stereotypes. And I have links that talk about the foods that our ancestors, what they were hunting, what they were growing, and also the way that they cooked their food by frying their food, boiling, baking, etc. Okay, on this website called Grub Americana, Exploring Classic American Foods, it says cornmeal, perhaps America's most traditional food. It says no other food exemplifies America and its plentiful bounty like corn. This is the second in a series of articles that explores the history and culinary uses of the versatile grain. Thousands of years before Europeans first landed on the shores of the New World, which we know is not the New World, it's the Old World. Okay, corn had become a staple food of Native Americans, and we know it's supposed to be American Indians. Along with many ways they use corn, one of the ways most important was grinding it into a coarse meal, which was then used to make pone, a flat bread baked in ashes, drinks such as atoli and chai-cha, and a thick cereal known simply as corn mush or Indian mush. Earlier British colonists adapted their traditional hasty pudding into a corn version called Indian pudding, a dessert still very popular in New England. When Europeans first came to America, the Native Americans, which we know American Indians, not only taught them how to grow corn, but how to grind and prepare it as well. Much of today's Southern cuisine stems from recipes learned from the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Creek, including those that incorporated cornmeal. Originally, the Indians ground their corn by hand using mortars and pestles, still used today by many culinarians. A mortar is a bowl usually made of stone, wood, or other hard material designed to hold whatever substance is to be ground, in this case, dried corn. The pestle is a heavy, blunt-like stick or another stone used to do the crushing. Mortars and pestles constructed by Native Americans, should be American Indians, were as varied as the tribes who used them. The Kodo and the Cherokee fashioned their mortars out of the thick tree trunks and used a heavy stick about the size of a baseball bat to pound the corn. Some of the southwestern tribes used large rocks with a natural depression for the matet or mortar and smaller stone tool for the mano pestle. The first American gristmill corn mill on record was built in 1634 in the colony of New Amsterdam, which is now New York. Although the Virginia Company records many reference to the water-powered mill being constructed in 1621 in present-day North Carolina. And it says, much like community barn raising, the local farmers and villagers usually help the miller construct these mills to ensure a facility within one day's travel from their farms in which they have their corn and sometimes other grain ground into meal or flour. In lieu of monetary fee for his services, a miller received a small percentage of the finished product called the miller's toll. The toll was then sold or traded by the miller for goods he and his family might need. Okay, so I'm going to stop that there and I'm going to have this below. So now you know that how our ancestors, what they did, that they was growing corn, as we know, that's one of our main, staples in our diet, and we know that grits come from it, and we also know that cornmeal come from it, and we use that in order to bread our fish with, and they also used it for their chicken as well. Okay, this says Native America survival secrets, how they cook without metal. It says if you are anything like me, then you are fascinated with how Native people lived before Europeans came to the New World. They got that in quotation marks because they probably know it's not the New World at all. And let's see here. I'm going to skip down to when he actually gets into discussing things. And like one of the techniques that he talked about he was talking about that they cooked without pans. It says, well, at least for the Native people, it was not a problem to cook without metal pots or pans. For modern man, not so easy. Depending on which tribe we're talking about, there were more ways to cook food than you can shake a stick at, with sticks being the most obvious choice. This is perhaps the easiest and least labor-intensive method that every camper learns pretty quickly, but put your meat on a stick and put it over the fire. However, there are plenty of other ways to cook food, sans the ever-ready stick. Ash cooking is still used in many places even today. Fish, frog legs, even potatoes can be wrapped in leaves and placed near or under hot ashes and coals. This is quick and effective, even if it means you might get a bit of ash on your food. Ashes always don't taste too bad. Cooking in pits also was another popular method, especially if you wanted to cook a great deal of food at one time. Pits were dug into the earth and then lined with an animal hide, fur removed. Inside of the hide, facing up, the food was placed in the hide, then covered with another hide or leaves. Hot coals were put inside the hole and then covered again, usually with twigs and leaves. And then right here you see these Indians, they're cooking some fish, and they have like what we'll call today like a pit or like a barbecue type structure made out of wooden sticks. Then you see that they have the logs at the bottom, and then you see the smoke coming up from the fish. So it says, anyways, Native people were well known for their soups. How did they manage this without a metal pot? Similar to the pit method, a hole was dug in the ground and a piece of hide was used to line the hole. Water and food was put into the pit where a fire was going nearby. Clean rocks were heated in the fire and then dropped into the water. You will be surprised how quickly the water will reach a boil in this manner. Okay, so if you would like to read the rest of this article, this one, just like the other articles that's in this video, you can find them below the video. So I'm on Snoop's website, and they're looking into things, looking into stories to try to see the validity into stories of, rumors or legends that were heard, to either say that no, it's true or it's not true, whatever the case may be. And so there was a story or a rumor that the man that was known as the Colonel of KFC, that he stole the recipe from a so-called black person, and we know that Negroes are not African Americans, because we know African Americans are foreigners that were stolen and taken over here. We know that most of the people that was listed as that were actually American Aborigines. So let's get into this. It says, did Colonel Sanders steal the KFC original recipe from a black woman named Miss Childress? An intriguing rumor about cultural theft and fried chicken lacks concrete evidence but alludes to a deeper truth. Colonel Sanders' original fried chicken recipe was stolen from a black woman named Miss Childress. In September 2019, we received multiple inquiries from readers regarding an old story about the origins of the famous KFC original recipe, the blend of herbs and spices that went into creating Colonel Harlan Sanders' original Kentucky Fried Chicken. It says the African Diaspora Facebook page wrote, "Meet Mrs. Childress. Colonel Sanders stole his famous fried chicken recipe from a black woman named Mrs. Childress. He paid her $1,200 for her recipe. KFC is worth $15 billion today." On September 3rd, a Facebook account with the name of Glenn Dickens wrote, "In case you didn't know, meet Miss Childress. She died in poverty. She is the woman behind the original KFC recipe." And then, they keep going on and, talking about it. And they're talking about how, about the imagery. And then they talk about how the image of the woman was a caricature, like of a mammy, of a woman, a Negro woman that was, taking care of wealthy white people or whatever. And then you have this person that was, I guess he was trying to debunk it. And it says, in a 2010 blog posted claim, Ron Douglas in America's Most Wanted Recipes says that Sanders took his secret recipe from a black woman, one Miss Childress of Kentucky, whose family paid $1,200 when they complained. It says, however, Douglas' book does not in fact make such a claim. Then it says here, the version of events presented there by Orzersky is conveniently accepted one. Sanders set up a gas station in Corbin, Kentucky during the 1930s, then began serving food there, including fried chicken. His food and hospitality garnered the gas station a good reputation among passing travelers, and he eventually converted the business into a restaurant and motel. Sanders settled upon a blend of 11 herbs and spices that went into making his fried chicken and began using a pressure cooker to fry the chicken. In latter years, he franchised out the use of his recipe to restaurants across the United States, and from there, the iconic brand emerged. Okay, so skipping down, it says, it takes too long to make chicken in a pan, and even the most colossal version hammered out by a southern smithy can only hold 30 pieces at a time at the most. Sanders patented his pressure cooker process in 1966. And it says he did allude to the racial tensions and cultural appropriation involved in the development of fried chicken in the early 20th century American South, writing that Sanders embodied the following paradox. Anyone who knew anything about the South knew that no Kentucky colonel would have cooked the fried chicken in a Southern household. The chicken in prosperous Southern households, particularly in the colonel's era, were inevitably cooked by a black maid or a family housekeeper. So, in other words, with that being said, looking at the era of the time period, it would have been a Negro woman that would have known how to prepare the food, how to season it, and all that good stuff. So anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Tell me what do you think.